Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. I cannot tell you how good it feels to see Telltale games back. I've been a huge fan of their games for quite some time. I played through just about all of The Walking Dead. I played Wolf Among Us, The Batman, Game of Thrones. All of it was fantastic. I love games that focus on stories and deep writing, and that's exactly what they specialize in. So on July 27th, they released the first episode of the first game that they've released in quite some time, The Expanse. And for those who haven't played a Telltale game before, they basically released them in an episodic format. So as opposed to you getting the entire game all at one time, they give you these small bite-sized, 1 hour, 2 hours at the most episodes that you can play through standalone, or wait until all the episodes are out and then play it as a full game, depending on what you prefer. Really cool stuff. Again, I've enjoyed the vast majority of the games they've released, and so now it's time to talk about their newest venture, The Expanse. Now, for those who are not familiar with this property, The Expanse is actually a series of books. I've never read the books before, but I've heard great things about them. But I've watched the first couple of seasons of the TV show, and it was wildly popular, definitely highly rated. And from what I've seen thus far, those reviews are legit. I've really enjoyed the show. Great showcase of what a sci-fi franchise is supposed to be like. Really looking forward to diving into the story more and finding out how it all ends. So, considering the fact that I love Telltale games and I'm a huge fan of The Expanse, was I a fan of this episode? Well, let's dive into it. There's some things that I definitely enjoyed, and then some things where I look at and feel like they probably could have done a better job. Let's start with what I like. This feels like a step up compared to other Telltale games from a production standpoint. So the writing in their games is always fantastic. Usually the character development is also a standout. But from a technical standpoint, a lot of their games were choppy, jittery. The controls weren't particularly good, and sometimes they didn't look particularly good either. And all of that feels cleaned up in this game. There were virtually no technical issues that I ran into. It still doesn't look great. You're not going to look at it and say, oh man, this looks like it's really pushing your system to the max, but it looks clean. And I definitely appreciate that. It looks better than the Telltale games that I'm used to experiencing. The voice acting, which is always stand out in their games, it's definitely on point here. There's only one voice that kind of feels like it's out of place. The pilot is off. It's supposed to be an older voice, and it's supposed to be, I guess, like the old, croaky sort of voice. It's not right. It's not pulled off properly at all. I'm not sure why that's the case. I'm not sure why the voice director, whoever, kind of didn't catch this. Like, it's clearly bad. It's clearly not a good job. But all the other voices in the game, really nice. Definitely fit the characters. The characters are well developed. Even in this 1 hour, you get a real sense of all the different players who are involved and kind of where they stand. And so definitely enjoyed that part of it. More so than some of the other Telltale games that I've played, they kind of changed up the gameplay a little bit. So they added some mechanics about how you float through space and how you deal with zero gravity and things of that nature. Really cool stuff. I absolutely enjoyed that, and it makes me look forward to them hopefully doing another Batman entry, to seeing what sort of gameplay quirks they can add while you're in that role. The story has you taking control of a character called Kamina Drummer, who was in the Expanse TV show, but this was a prequel to the show, so you don't have to have seen the show in order to technically understand what's going on here. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but you're basically taking control of her, and the captain of the ship comes across another ship that has been attacked, and he believes there are things of value there. So you play as Drummer in charge of a bunch of scavengers who are supposed to board this ship and try to bring back something of value for the overall crew. And that is used as the mechanic that has you introducing yourself to all of the crew and kind of leading them through this expedition. As usual with Telltale games, you'll get the opportunity to make some choices that will have long-term consequences, and there's a lot of different dialogues that can change how people perceive you and how your character develops. All of it well done. Like I said, I feel like the writing is strong in this story, and that it's consistent with what you expect from other Telltale games. I do see a couple of weak points though, and one of them directly deals with the game, and the other isn't really the game itself, it's just the kind of the situation Telltale is in. So let's first talk about the game. I enjoyed the game. I found the game easy to follow. I found the story easy to follow. I'm not sure how much of that has to do with the fact that I've already seen the TV show. Because even though this first episode rather, is written very well, and I think it sets up the characters very nicely, I don't feel like it does enough world building. Like it uses terms like, hey, Martian, Belter, things of that nature, but it doesn't tell you what that means. It doesn't really explain what the belt actually means. It doesn't explain why Belters and Martians might have an issue with each other. It just gives a hint as to why Drummer feels like she should have an issue with another character on the ship who is a Martian. And so I understand all these things because I've already seen the TV show before, so it kind of sets it up. Whereas if you're coming in completely fresh and you know nothing about the Expanse, I'm actually not sure how much you can enjoy this. And I feel that that's a mistake on Telltale's part. I definitely feel like there should have been more done to ensure that someone who's completely new to the world would be able to follow along and enjoy things. Now, I say that kind of with a caveat because, of course, there is still the character development. There is still the sci-fi framing of everything that's going on, and it's very well voice acted. So it could be that even if you don't completely understand what's happening, you would still enjoy it, have a good time, if those are the type of elements in the game that really appeal to you. But I think Telltale should have probably done a better job of setting up the world in addition to kind of giving you some insight into all the different characters involved. There's also the second issue of, I don't think this was a good game for Telltale games to come back with, right? Like The Expanse is very popular among those sci-fi fanatics, but I don't think it's a huge show overall. Telltale Games hasn't been around for quite some time. I don't remember when the last game they released was, but they've been a defunct studio for a good little while. And so I feel like a lot of people are not familiar with their format of releasing games, and the fact that it's releasing as just this standalone episode, which is essentially only an hour. Most people, of course, are used to their RPGs being significantly longer than that. I think this might be a hard sell for a lot of people, and it probably would have been a much better idea for them to come back with a franchise like The Wolf Among Us or The Batman, something where there's a real hook that draws people in and makes them say, okay, hey, Telltale Games is back. I'm going to tell everybody about this. I'm going to, help people get comfortable with this. There's just a lot more buzz around those franchises than trying to do an episode around The Expanse. So I kind of feel like this shouldn't have been the kickoff. I don't feel like this series is being put in position to succeed. There was virtually no buzz about it. I just so happened to come across an article that mentioned that, hey, this was coming out, and I'm somebody who, again, loves Telltale Games and is absolutely going to play anything that they come out with, just about. And so those two things together, it kind of makes me, it's kind of off to me, makes me question what's going on. But overall, again, I enjoyed this episode. I'm looking forward to getting the other episodes. I will review them one by one, and then we'll do a full, more comprehensive review of the overall series once all the episodes are available to me. But anyway, those are my thoughts after spending an hour playing this. Hope all of you enjoyed the video, and see you in the next one. Take care.